Later on, in the higher degrees, and or if you read the books written by high-level Masons, you learn these things have deeper levels. And most of the deeper levels relate to matters of sexuality. Because you see, Masonry at its deepest level is what is called a fertility cult. Let me take you back 2,000 years to one of the seminal organizations, pardon the expression, from which Masonry springs, and that's the rituals of Eleusis. Eleusis was an ancient Greek city where they had this sacred mystery cult, and it would take the person through all these ordeals, and at the very end, they'd come into this chamber, and they would be shown the ultimate secret of the rites of Eleusis. And they'd open up this cloth, and you know what would be sitting there inside of this white cloth? A stalk of wheat.
Really?
Yeah. Because that wheat contains seeds. And the seeds are the principle of fertility.
Okay.
And so the idea of Masonry is the cycle of fertility. The idea that you have sex, you have babies, the babies grow up, they have babies. And now on the surface, that doesn't sound that bad. But you've got to understand that all the cults that surrounded Israel were all fertility cults. Baal was a fertility god. Ashtaroth was a fertility god. They all were depicted to be delicate as being very well equipped. And they all had wives, goddess wives, and they would do all kinds of stuff that a mink breeder would not even tolerate. And they were very ungodly, they were very perverse, and they were often worshipped with either orgies or with human sacrifice, and in the case of Molech, they were worshipped with infant sacrifice.
That's right.
Children were thrown into the fire.
Like out at the
belly of this iron idol
Bohemian Grove. Yes.
Yeah, the groves. Yeah. So anyway, it's bad. And this is what Masonry claims to be descended from. The ancient mystery religions. You will often go to a Masonic cemetery or a regular cemetery and find a Masonic grave. And you know what the gravestone is? It's an obelisk.
There you go.
And just like Washington Monument.
Yes.
The world's largest phallic symbol.
Yes. Folks, it's
because
true.
That's the god of Masonry. The god of Masonry is basically the male member. Now, Masons wouldn't say that because they don't want to gross people out, but that's what's in their books. And the square symbolizes the male reproductive system. The compass symbolizes the female reproductive system. Wow. And the letter G, and again, this is in the higher levels, you're told, symbolizes the power of generativity.
Oh, my goodness.
The power to reproduce oneself. So the trouble with Masonry is, you join that lodge, maybe you're a Christian, maybe you're not. You join that lodge and you kneel at an altar and swear allegiance to the lodge on a Bible. At that moment, you are swearing an oath to Baal, to a false demon god. And you're putting yourself under the headship of a false Baal system. Just as surely as if you'd gone into some satanic temple and signed a pact with the devil. And I've done both, so I know wherever I speak. Masonry is just entry-level witchcraft. Masons don't understand this because they don't read their own books, just like a lot of Christians don't read their Bibles. Most Masons have never read the volumes and volumes of books that are in their libraries that teach them these things.
And I think it goes even deeper than that. We're going to go into something more hardcore, and that is, let's just talk about witchcraft. What is the difference between the Satanists and the witches? I know you said the witches, they claim to worship nature.
Right.
They don't even acknowledge that, Satan or Lucifer, but what would you say is the main difference between them and the Satanists?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what Michael Aquino said. Michael Aquino is one of the leading Satanists in America.
Yes.
He said the main difference between white witches and Satanists is that Satanists know the powers they're working with, white witches don't. They're ignorant as fools.
Okay, and if you take Anton LaVey, he said pretty much the same. He said black, white witchcraft, it's all the same.
Well,
whether they know it or not.
Except that the people that are these nicey, we used to call them fluffy bunny witches. Because, oh, we're so sweet, we're so nice, la, 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 we wouldn't hurt a soul. And maybe that's true. But they fail to understand that the very energy they're working with is from the pit of hell.
That's right.
They don't get that. Because the nature of magic is such that it is contrary to the power of God.
Yes.
Because magic and prayer are exact opposites. Prayer assumes there is a higher power that had to grant the request or deny the request, just like a parent. Whereas magic is like you put your dollar in the vending machine, you push the button, and out comes the Twinkies. It's automatic. And see, that's not how the universe really works, but that's how the magician and the witch think it works.
Of course, to move up the ranks, they have to inevitably, at some point in time, get involved in the shedding of blood, either their blood, animal sacrifice, or human.
Well, not white witches, no, but yeah, within Satanism, yes, especially these hardcore groups.
Let me ask you a question. There's a reported, I think, 100,000 people missing every year from the USA alone. Do you think many of those are being used in sacrifices?
It wouldn't surprise me. You know, I mean, because, you know, there's that, and there's also the fact that, you know, vampires got to drink blood somewhere.
Oh, man, that's right. What's going on with vampirism? I mean, you know, look at the Twilight series.
Oh, yeah, that's what my new book is going to be about. It's called Romancing Death. That's the working title, and hopefully it'll be out by spring or summer. And it's about how the church has been invaded by vampires.
Listen, we've got people in the church letting their kids go see Harry Potter. What's up with that?
Too. We were beating the drum against Harry Potter 5 or 6, 7 years ago, and a lot of Christians just laughed at us. And this stuff is dangerous because it gets kids thinking in a magical way. It gets kids believing that there are magical solutions to problems instead of prayer. And you see, you know, it's like the Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. If you're reading, like for example, the last Twilight novel, which is recommended by many Christian churches, is 600-700 pages long. I don't even know how many hundreds of pages the last Harry Potter novel was. I think it was at least 800 pages long. And kids are reading these things over and over and over and over again. I saw this one kid on the news a few years ago. She said she'd read the fourth Harry Potter novel 17 times. 12-year-old girl. Now think how messed up that kid's mind is.
Folks, it's an abomination because here's what happens. You touch witchcraft, you curse yourself 3 and 4 generations. You'll get a demonic spirit. And we're basically demonizing our children. They're going to see these movies. They go in to buy popcorn. They come out with a demon. And, you know, it's apostasy, you know. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. When you were in the witchcraft, did you ever make any contact with not Aleister Crowley, but with Anton LaVey? He was probably still alive at the time.
Well, I joined his church. Does that count?
Did you actually meet him and go out to the...
no, I never met him. I do have a personally autographed certificate from him that I had become a secondary member of the Church of Satan. But, no, I never met him because I was in Milwaukee and he was in San Francisco.
Have you heard that story that he supposedly was on his deathbed and he was getting ready to pass the torch to the Grand Priestess and he started to catch glimpses of hell and say, something's wrong here? Any truth to that?
No, I never heard that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, yeah. He was in for a rude awakening, no doubt about that.
Well, yes, indeed.
Now, listen, I remember reading in the book, there was some small guy that came into your life, and I think he had almost lost his mind. He had been reading some of the books like Necromonicon from Lovecraft.
Right.
Some of those. Whatever happened to that guy? Did you ever run into him again?
Well, do you mean the guy that I call Orion?
That may have been.
Yeah, believe it or not, that guy's still around.
Really?
Somebody about 6 or 8 months ago sent me a YouTube video, and it's the same jerk. I mean, he's still sitting there, you know, with his big robe on and his little goatee and pretending to be this great satanic evil adept, you know, and the guy, I don't know. I mean, I'm surprised the guy hasn't grown up a little. Because, I mean, that was 1978, 1979. I mean, you're talking like, you know, 30 years ago. Oh, well. Yeah, he's still
organized. Now let's talk about the black magic segment of it. The hardcore witches, they actually mean business out there. What is the organization structure like? Are they very organized here in the USA? Would you say there's probably covens all across the United States in every major city?
Well, yeah, but I wouldn't really call them organized, though. Witches have suffered from the same problem that Christians have, and that is they keep splitting. You know, I mean, there used to be like two major kinds of witchcraft in the Western world, Gardnerian and Alexandrian, plus some traditionalists. And now there's like hundreds of these little, for lack of a better word, they're called traditions, we would call them denominations, of various kinds of witchcraft where there's not a lot of difference between them. But you've got to understand there's not really like a one single pope-like authority over all witches. There really isn't. There even isn't one like that over Satanists. Because you've got to realize all these people are kind of anarchists. I mean, you know, they don't really believe in authority because, of course, Satan is the ultimate rebel. So it's hard to have an authority structure when you are a rebel. You know,
they'll always basically do what they want to do, right? That's their law.
Right. Well, like Crowley's motto, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. And Crowley was a powerful influence on the development of modern witchcraft in the last half of the 20th century. So, you know, that's not to say that there isn't a structure on the demonic level, on the fallen angelic level. They're the puppet masters. They're behind the scenes. They're the ones that orchestrate all this stuff, but they're invisible because they're either fallen angels or they're demons or they're strongmen that are over all these groups.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you this question. What is the agenda of the witches and warlocks? They are actually infiltrating churches, I understand it, sending people in to
Now, again, this is the more satanic-type witches. But, yeah, they want to subvert the churches. They want to infiltrate the church. They want to destroy the power of the church. And we have a whole chapter on that in our book, Blood on the Doorpost, about how witches will try and cause pastors to fall, either sexually or maybe through finances or something. They will spread rumors in a church. They will spread gossip. They will try and corrupt the children. Like, I'll tell you a true story. I won't name the denomination, but we were members of a major charismatic church in the Pacific Northwest. 5,000 members at least. Yes. And the woman who was the head of the Sunday school was the secretary of David Spangler. Now, that name might not mean anything to you, but he was like the most powerful thinker in the whole New Age movement. And this lady was his confidential assistant.
Oh, my goodness.
And she was in this church teaching kids how to meditate in front of candles, how to contact their inner wise person, how to do all this creepy New Age stuff that you know, people have been railing against since the days of Constance Cumby back in the 80s. And we went and we talked. We got one of the guys who'd been going to this church forever, who was a very seasoned prayer intercessor, and he went and we talked to the pastor. We explained our concerns, and he just shrugged it off. He said, I don't care. It's no worry of mine. And so we left the church because we figured any pastor has that kind of level of discernment, we didn't need to be a part of that church.
Well, I think they all lack discernment. You know,